The show starts with a comic artist drawing the main heroine for his comic in his workshop. Aroused by his art, he states that he wishes to fondle some breasts. Ashizu, his assistant, overhears him and asks him about his unethical desire. However, he emphasizes that since the protagonist of his story would fondle the heroine's breasts, he must include some reality. Unfortunately, since he has never felt boobies in his life, he has no idea how they feel and hence cannot mimic the sensation in his artwork. Yuki Aito, the artist, confesses his intentions of touching his assistant's breasts by making her feel horrible for refusing him. Because she doesn't want him to grope them, she fondles them herself and he begins to analyze them. He suddenly pushes his hand towards her and gropes it, enraging her. When Ada reveals his manga to a colleague artist, Mihari, she is outraged at his poor writing of the series opener and tells him to start over. He informs her that he doesn't need to modify anything and should simply continue with the unrealism since he feels that manga should be different from actual life. On the other hand, the two chastise him for his immature thinking. When he asks Mihari about her dream, she discloses with a flustered expression that she wishes to have a modest family with someone and settle down, prompting them to acknowledge her innocent dream. Following that, Ada reveals that he wishes for a female to express her love to him once in his life, whereas Ashizu states that her dream is to never create any difficulty for her editor. Later, when the two are working again, Ada breaks into shouts because he can't decide if a full view or a peek of a panty is preferable. Ada is still determining which sort of person his manga will appeal to since there are both types of individuals that prefer one over the other. Ashizu suddenly explains that not sketching it will make his characters seem more innocent. Hearing this, he concludes that his readers would be able to imagine them whatever they choose, which impresses him with her intelligence. However, he wants to use the opportunity to sketch them. Mihari goes shopping and comes across a clothing store where she sees Ada purchasing a bundle of bras and underwear. He admits that he wants them to use it as a reference, but when he tells her to wear an article of certain clothing, she becomes furious. Following that, he chooses to give her a bra and explains that since her size is small, she wouldn't mind wearing a small one, further enraging her. Rina Fuwa, the young girl, shows up at their workshop's door, stating that she applied for the job. When Ado asks if she's willing to do dirty stuff as a reference for his character, she immediately responds that she's fine with it as long as he is willing to take responsibility. Seeing the girl's dedication, Ado instantly welcomes her and they all begin planning the manga. Suddenly, Ada receives a special delivery, revealing it to be an undergarment for his character's reference, though he also reveals that he put them on over his face when Fuwa confronts him. Ashizu feels that she has terrible taste in men since she's getting along with Ito so well. As their deadline is near, they need Fuwa to draw too, but she reveals that she cannot draw, prompting Ashizu to scold Ado for hiring her. Since they put an advertisement through Mihari, Ado phones her to ask what was going on inside her head. However, she reveals that he was the one who asked to hire a girl as long as she was cute, causing embarrassment to Ashizu. Since she is willing to help them however she can, Fuwa announces that she will learn to draw and start working with them. When Mihari arrives, she scolds him for drawing nothing but panties in his manga, prompting Ado to realize that he needs to draw some boobs as well. Hearing his response, she gets enraged and tells him that his manga will never get a higher rating. Ashizu and Mihari then point out the story and instruct him to introduce more characters in his series. However, Ado doesn't care about the story at all as long as he gets to draw the heroine, causing them to release their vicious rage at him. Afterwards, she advises him to introduce a rival as he will help the main character develop, but Ado feels as though he will be the reason the main character's girl gets stolen and decides to not progress with the idea. Seeing Ashizu and Ado work together even though they are opposite, Fuwa asked about their first meeting. In a flashback, it is revealed that Ashizu became Ado's assistant on the recommendation of an artist and that he accidentally spilled tea over her chest, resulting in their first embarrassing encounter. Ashizu and Fuwa find out about Ado's habit of collecting lewd magazines and confront him. Since he craves a woman's touch, he believes it will earn him experience interacting with women, causing Ashizu to look at him with a disgusting sight. When he asks whether Ashizu will grow to like him, she reveals that they will never be together as long as he continues to be a filthy pervert before instructing him to tear the magazines. Since he refuses to rip them apart, stating that they are his love, Ashizu herself builds up the courage and tears them, causing Ado to cry in agony. After they beat their deadline and finish their work, Ashizu suddenly falls to the floor due to her illness. Since she needs some rest, Edo quickly removes her clothes, intending to clothe her with bedtime clothes, and she's enraged to find out about this. Afterward, Edo decides to look after her by cooking and feeding her for the night. Mihari recommends that Edo hires Sina, a freelance assistant who is perfect at drawing, for his final draft, and instructs him to not offend her in any way possible, as she will leave if the workshop doesn't hold any professionalism. Sina Kuroi, the super assistant, arrives at his doorstep, and Edo is amazed at how cute she is. He is even more impressed when he witnesses her drawing capabilities, offering her a candy box, enraging her, but also flustering her. Since she cannot open the ink bottle, she decides to leave by making an excuse that she can't work in an environment like this. But Edo notices this, opens the bottle for her, and starts humming her, further enraging her. Fed up with his interactions, she leaves the studio angrily, prompting Edo to worry about his final draft. Someone knocks on their door, and when Edo opens it, he finds Sina waiting for him. Believing that she has come to finish her work, he starts joking about her missing him, and she suddenly brings out a paycheck. Edo is astonished at how expensive her rate is, and as he reveals that he doesn't have any money, she starts lashing him, though Shu stops once she realizes Edo is enjoying it. Since mascot characters are popular among the fans, Mihari advises him to add one to his series, but he declines. However, when Ashizu expresses her fondness for them, he immediately decides to add one. As they are drawing different ones to add to their series, one of the designs catches Ashizu's eye and she falls in love with it, revealing her wish to start a merchandising business. Since Edo already knew she was going to make a demand, he prepared one, but it wasn't to her liking. Since Aito needs to impress Ashizu, Fua decides to help him with sewing and creates a better mascot for Ashizu than him, prompting him to run away from the house. Outside, Aito comes across an abandoned kitty and brings him to his apartment. As she lays her eyes on the kitten, she is amazed at her cuteness and completely ignores Aito's hard work in bringing it to her. Later, Ashizu asks Mihari about the time she met Aito, and she recalls a memory. During her school days, she had a classmate, Aito, sitting beside her, and when she found out that he was a comic artist, she started asking him for directions on becoming one, though she soon found out how perverted he was. Mihari informs Aito that his manga Shy Cafe got the worst rating in the survey and criticizes his habit of drawing panties. To get some fresh air, Aito visits a park, where he is met by a young girl who informs him that she loves comics. Seeing his manga volume in her hands, he asks about her opinion on the series, and she responds that she used to love the manga but now feels as if he doesn't care about the characters. Since he continuously draws panties, she scolds him for not allowing the main heroine to develop and points out that this is why his series is going down. Hearing a valid criticism, he assures her that he will get better at the story, and suddenly Mihari appears, revealing that the girl is none other than the editor-in-chief. Meanwhile, Ashizu submits her work but is rejected, and she meets up with Aito outside. When Aito hears about this, he fears she will stop working for him once she goes pro, but he assures her that he fully supports her. Since it is her dream to inspire other people through comics, Aito convinces her that if they work together in the same building for their final drafts, she will be able to help him inspire his dream. Later, Aito informs Mihari that he has an idea for a new character and informs her that he will use her as a reference. More like her boobs, prompting her to embarrassingly reveal that she doesn't like hers. Hearing something so absurd, Aito screams at her that artists care so much about their stories and character because of their individuality and anatomy. Aito receives the royalty check for his work, and as a celebration, he takes everyone to a hot spring. There he reveals that he invited them so he could look at their sizes and use them as a reference. Afterward, as they are bathing, Ashizu's bra suddenly loosens and a wave washes it to the shore, leading Aito to find it. Not letting the opportunity of peeking at Ashizu go away, Aito quickly picks it up and takes it to her. But when she reveals that she lost her bikini too, he has no choice but to offer his pants to her. Suddenly, a giant wave appears and leaves both of them naked. Later, they are forced to take a mixed bath, and when Aito accidentally slips away, he puts his hands on Senna's chest, enraging her. Afterward, they are shocked to find out that he has only booked a single room for all of them and kicks him out. Since he doesn't have any other place to go, Ashizu requests that they let him in. Much to everyone's surprise, Sina asks her if she's in love with him since she's so considerate toward him, making her feel embarrassed. Ashizu's little sister, Sohano, arrives at their studio apartment. Since Aito is busy talking with her, Ashizu decides to cook something, and as she leaves, Sohano reveals her sister's album to him. When she reveals that despite drawing her entire life, she still hasn't debuted, Ashizu is enraged. Fearing that she will show Aito her private pictures, Ashizu burns off the album. Later, Sohano decides to take a bath with Aito, where she worries about her sister. Aito acknowledges her as a great sister and tells her what a great person she is for continuously thinking about her betterment. After their bath, she leaves since she needs to be at home. At night, Mihari doesn't have enough money for a taxi, and Aito informs her that she can spend the night at his apartment. Since she trusts him, she feels she would be fine, but she still worries that he will start flirting with her. After her bath, she gets a call from her mom, and when Mihari informs her that she will be staying in Aito's room, her mom teases her. The following day, Aito presents Sina with a dress, and as she is about to kick him, her leg slips, and she trips down, injuring her leg. Aito quickly takes her to the hospital, and on their way to her apartment, she reveals that she hasn't started her comic because she isn't too great at writing. Hearing this, Aito encourages her to take a start and not care about worries. Ashizu enters the editor-in-chief's office and is astonished to learn how young she is. As soon as the two begin conversing, the editor, Minano, brings up Aito and asks her whether he has ever grabbed her breasts. Because she has to reveal the truth to assess her job fully, she admits that he did it once by mistake, prompting her ass to fondle them as well. With no other option, she agrees to her request, and Minano fondles them, describing them as enormous. As she prepares to depart, she tells Ashizu that her work has been rejected and that she must do better the next time. Mihari chastises him for not paying attention to her and forbids him from doing it in the future. She cautions him that if he continues to work in this manner, she will be forced to transfer him to someone else. Hearing this, Aito begins working hard, fearful that she may transfer him to someone manly, causing him to lose his whole harem. Mihari is impressed with how effectively he has been working recently and encourages him to set aside some time for fresh air or activities. Mihari and Aito attend their class get-together, and when one of their colleagues asks Mihari about her hair, she recalls starting to work with Aito. During a flashback, Aito proposes to her at a restaurant and she falls in love with him. One night, he needed help with his work as the deadline was approaching, and she decided to help by visiting his apartment. As Aito celebrates his success in meeting the deadline and finally getting time to sleep, she accidentally spills the ink on his comic due to her negligence, ruining nearly half of his work and prompting him to continue working the entire night. Later, on their way back, she informs him that if they are still single 10 years later, she will go out with him and the two may start dating. Aito and Sina are on their way to the apartment when Sina begins behaving strangely. Because she has to use the restroom urgently, she begins doing strange things in the elevator, and to her dismay, a problem arises and they are now locked inside. Because there is no other option, Aito hands her a bottle, and she is ready to relieve herself when the elevator door opens and Ashizu greets them. Later, when Aito lacks the stamina to do his job, Fua cheers him up all night, causing him to accomplish his task on time and fall asleep on her lap. Ashizu is caught in the rain and has no option but to purchase an umbrella. Aito appears unexpectedly, but is upset they couldn't share since she now has her own. He abruptly tosses his own aside, compelling her to allow him to accompany her. Mihari enters the studio and Aito suddenly starts lamenting that she has changed. When she questions him, he reveals that her boobs have now grown and she might start seeing someone, leading her to measure them. She is surprised to find it true and informs him that she will never change, prompting both of them to celebrate. Much to Aito's amazement, everyone is acting weird. Sina walks in with a gift for him and starts getting naked in front of him. On the other hand, Ashizu reveals her fetish of humiliating him and uses it as a reference for her work. As the deadline for her work approaches, Ashizu asks Mihari to assess her work, but she observes that even if she receives a high ranking, it will not assist her debut. Aito agrees to assist her and fulfill the deadline with top-notch works since she is determined to make her debut. The next day, they learn that she has topped the charts, but that her work is too erotic for her to make her debut. Later, Ashizu's younger sister, Sohano, arrives, and once everyone has gathered, Aito begins appraising their panties. So Hano admits that, although Ishizu seems to be pure, she has a nasty mind which causes her humiliation. Thank you so much for staying until the end. Make sure to subscribe to any recap for more